Hello and thanks for joining me. In this lesson we are going to talk about checker efficiency, using your checkers most effectively over the board. Now here in this first position you can see that white has a very inefficient bear off structure and only 5 rolls out of 36 would take off 2 checkers, whereas for green all 36 rolls would take off 2 checkers or even more. And of course here as white, many other rolls would only take off 1 checker. So even though the pip count is equal at 50 and 50, the effective pip count is actually much higher for white because of the inefficiency of the checkers where they are placed on the board. Now I'm going to show you some positions that are more likely to come up over the board so you can think about how best to play your checkers. So let's get started. Now here you can see a comparison between two 6-5 players. Now how would you play 6-5 on the left and how would you play 6-5 on the right? Now on the left it is clearly right to hit twice, 13-7 and 6-1, because there you can see that we have 2 heavy points. Our midpoint and our 6 point both have 5 checkers on, so we want to take checkers from our heavy points to redistribute them to use them more efficiently. Now on the right it is a different situation because now we are down to 3 checkers on our 6 point, so hitting from our 6 point will in fact be an error, because then we would only have 2 checkers there and the point would be stripped. So it's simply better on the right hand side to bring 2 checkers off the midpoint and only hit once. So one thing to remember in terms of efficiency is to unstack your heavy points and never really to strip the 6 point. It's very rarely correct to strip the 6 point, so you always want to have more than 2 checkers on that point. Now if we look at the difference here between 2-3-1s, on the left hand side we can see that it's correct to make the 20 point, but on the right hand side it's better to make the 5 point, and again we are using the checkers efficiently. You can see on the right hand side that the 8 point and the 6 point are stacked, so we are using those checkers to make the 5 point make the best inner board point. On the left hand side there are fewer checkers on the 6 and 8, so it's better to make the 20 point. Now Magriel said put the checkers where they belong, so just looking at a position for some time and seeing where your heavy points are helps guide you towards making efficient plays. And of course you only have 15 checkers, so that's not many to move around, so you need to use your army in a smart way. We often talk about buried checkers or dead checkers, having too many on the ace point, and that is always bad because it's like playing with a reduced army, a bit like a football team having a player sent off with a red card and then only playing with 10 men. You need to think that I have 15 checkers and each one of those checkers I need to put to the best use. Now I'm going to show you 4 different positions and I want to try to find the best answer using some of the ideas on efficiency we've already spoken about. Now here the best move is to simply make the 5 point. Now many players might choose to make the bar point here because they think, well, then I have a 3 point prime, but there are some things here to bear in mind. Now firstly, making the 5 point is we are using the checkers efficiently, taking a spare off the heaviest point. Now by making the bar point, in comparison we are ending up with 3 stripped points in our outfield and taking a spare off our 8 point. So after making the bar, for 7, 8 and 11 would all have 2 checkers on. So that would be an inefficient and inflexible structure, whereas here we have much better distribution of checkers and also inner board points outweigh outerboard points. So the 5 point is much stronger than the bar point. So here we think in terms of efficiency, but it also plays into other ideas across the board. Now the second position, white has a 4-1 to play. Now here, of course, it is tempting to make the hitting play 13 to 8, but that would be an error. It's simply better to use our spare checkers efficiently. So here we make the 3 point with 4-1. Now here, only 7 rolls use those 3 checkers, the 3 spares efficiently. 4-1, 3-1, 3-4 and double 1. So really, another good rule of thumb is to do the most difficult thing first. If only 7 rolls make the 3 point, but many other rolls make the hitting play, then simply do the most difficult thing first, make the 3 point and make the 5 prime. And you'll also notice on the left that after making the correct play, our winning chances and our gammons have increased by having that 5 prime block. Making the hitting play here would be an error because of course then we send green back and he could have 2 points made in our home board and so on. So simply look where your spare checkers are and use those checkers in the best way possible. In the third position, white has a 2-1 to play. Now here it's simply right to make the 5 point, even though we would be leaving ourselves open to being attacked. Then we use the checkers in the best way possible. We use a spare from the 6 point again. We also make the best inner board point, and we have really nothing to worry about by getting hit back because already we have 3 checkers back and green has only a 1 point home board, so 35 rolls re-enter straight away. Also, of course, if green hits us, we might get a lot of returns and then we want the stronger home board. So here again the play is efficient. We use the spare off the 6 point. Now if there were not 5 checkers on the 6 point and only 4 checkers, then that might guide us towards making a different play. But of course, you know, the dynamics of a position will always dictate kind of where we move the checkers. Now if we look at the last position here, number 4, now here it is right by a big margin to make the hitting play 13 to 9, even though we are 10 pips up in the race. Now of course here it is tempting to make the 5 point and then have the rack formation 6-5-4, but again by making the 5 point we are stripping the 8 point and the 6 point. We are ending up again in an inflexible position and taking our only spare from the 6 and from the 8. Whereas here, by making the hitting play, we are using one of the spares from our heavier midpoint, which now has 4 checkers on. So it's a much better use of checkers. So this is the last position, but hopefully you've picked something up from these positions that I've shown you. Certainly take time over the board, use your clock time and think about where your checkers are on the board. Don't move your checkers absent-mindedly. Don't go into autopilot. Always think about why you're moving the checkers, where you're moving them to. Think consciously about the checker is going here because of this reason. And that will certainly lead you to making more conscious and often right decisions over the board. So there we are. Think about where the checkers belong, as Magriel says. Put them in the right places, and hopefully you'll make fewer errors and blunders over the board. See you next Wednesday. Goodbye.